You're tuned in to the MtG Cabal cast, where they cover Magic, the Gathering Finance. All right? You don't know about it? You're tuned in right now and get ready to learn some shit. Buckle your seatbelts and light a blunt and get ready for the MtG Cabal cast. Starring Reptar and Thirsty, them onion head motherfuckers.
Alrighty, guys, welcome to the newest episode of the Cabal cast. And this week, we're doing a set preview of a micro set, of an aftermath set, of an garbage
set.
An epilogue set
on Epitaph Records.
It's just whatever, man. Wizards is gonna do their thing.
Yeah.
And just it's basically, what do we think of the set? How do we feel about this as a concept? Is it something we want to see again? And what we would do to improve it. So with that, let's take it away.
Yep. So as we alluded to moments ago, March of the Machine Aftermath is considered an epilogue set. And now epilogue sets are defined, finally, as lore-packed boosters that continue the story between sets, with a guaranteed foil and showcase card in every pack. And then it goes on to explain what the contents are for an epilogue booster for the time being. That could change in the future. Doesn't matter right now. But we can see that an epilogue set is basically meant to extend the set story because we no longer have blocks. So they want to do that this way. Okay, interesting. And a micro set. That's what this is now defined as. March of the Machine Aftermath is the first set marked as a quote-unquote micro set. It is sold in a 5-card epilogue booster that contains the story in between sets. Each booster guarantees a foil and a showcase card. Now, we can see in the next sentence that both Unfinity and Warhammer 40k Commander decks are considered to be microsets as opposed to tentpoles. So they have been reclassified as a microset. Yep. So the Lord of the Rings set will not be considered a microset. It should be considered a tentpole set because it's an entire set dedicated to this, whereas the 40k decks were reimaginings of a number of cards with your standard amount of new cards that you would see in a regular Commander set. So that's what we're seeing right now. This is a brand new product and a brand new way to deliver additional story now that we are outside the block structure. So if we take a look at the set and all 50 cards, up top, what do you think about the set? Just as a whole, all 50 cards, taking a look at it.
I think the best cards are uncommons, both from like an impact perspective and from a financial perspective, just because of how the boosters are assembled. I don't see how a limited environment works. Obviously, it's not meant to be drafted. Yep. But I mean, in terms of, hey, we're just going to plug this extra stuff in. Like, look, man, we've got 1,000-card sets. Just put the story stuff in the last set. I don't understand. But the stuff, I mean, it looks good. It's flavorful. It's bringing back some, I think, outside of two, really, those being Karn and Nissa, some kind of underserved planeswalkers recently. Mm-hmm. I like the all-stars of the multiverse feel of it. And I'm glad that this is not something that is going to be more than a blip on the radar for the time being. Because this is like, I see it as like almost an homage to my favorite storylines in Magic, and I don't know if we're going to get that again in a way that I actually appreciate. So
I can understand that. Yeah, I feel similarly about this, where they are attempting to serve properly a number of popular story characters from the beginning of Magic all the way up through now in the best way they can, which is giving them some press on the way out the door. Basically. Yep. Do these characters come back? We don't know, but they were important enough at some point in time that we needed to re-up on them to remind people that they're around. Where is Garruk? Now, like you said, the uncommons look to be some of the best cards in the set for multiple of reasons. And when you read through some of the non-planeswalker-based rares, you do kind of get that feeling because some of the regular rares aren't terribly impactful compared to the uncommons, especially by ratio. Like Training Grounds is an amazing card.
Obviously, yeah.
Hands down.
The one everyone was most excited for a reason.
Yeah, and the dinosaur that we were talking about, I can't remember the name of it.
The Tranquil Frillback.
Frillback, yeah. I think that's another amazing rare, but there are definitely some like clunkers and some really hard cards to figure out that just don't really make sense at the rarity. And so to me, I think the set overall is like, if you're not a legend, it's kind of a miss. And if you're not an uncommon, it's kind of a miss. But I think it's because the uncommons are also meant to serve a lot of those legends. Some of the uncommons, when you look at it, there's the Vampire Lord that's meant to serve basically Sorin and like that kind of tribal stuff.
Yeah.
There's the Harness Snubhorn, the dinosaur that serves like Watley or Zakama, those kind of legends.
Yeah.
You have Coppercoat Vanguard, which serves any number of the human generals out there.
Yeah.
And you have the Goldforge Thopteryx, which is like kind of a Saheeli thing because it's Azor.
Yeah.
But then you have rares that just kind of like whiff.
Kenris Royal Funeral.
That's one of them.
That card's bad.
Yeah.
That card's bad.
Like I thought, like deification was interesting, but kind of a dud.
Yeah, it just gives a Planeswalker worship.
Yeah, effectively a Planeswalker type. So it plays well in like her Gideon tribal.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, here are all my Gideons, and now they're all kind of like a worship with deification. Like a little weird to figure that one out.
I like Vesuvian Drifter from a flavor perspective. I just don't know.
Yeah.
How much value it has. I'm sure that of all of the cards, Vesuvian Drifter is the one I look at, and I'm like, this card might actually be like a trap in terms of everyone's going to think it's bad, but it's insane. But who knows?
Yeah, I mean, like, because it's a clone, right? Yeah, you mean like the top card of your library. Oh, it clones off the top of the library.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was actually really interesting too. Like in Commander, there's so many ways to muddle with the top of your library.
Yep.
And you can ride with the top down, literally. And that definitely allows you to continue to set up the top of your library very effectively. Very, very effectively. And there's that enchantment that blew up in price a couple of years ago where you just scry X.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? So you can just keep floating Draco on top or whatever.
Over and over, whatever it needs to be. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's... I had it pegged as good, but I don't know how good because I didn't know, like...
How abusable is it?
That's what it is. Yeah. Like, I was waiting for somebody...
Am I Jace locking myself here? Because if so, that's fine.
Yeah, like, is somebody going to blow the doors off this thing? And when they do, I won't be unhappy about it kind of thing.
Yeah. It's I could almost see playing, like, sneak and chill lists as a one or two of.
Yeah, why not?
But
so, overall, it seems like we both kind of agree the set is, like, a little middling because it just doesn't... It's the first of its type, truly, and it doesn't have...
Yeah.
The identity that maybe WotC thinks it does when you're looking at it from an outsider perspective.
Yeah.
Now, thinking about epilogue sets in general and using these to continue the storyline instead of maybe continuing to do these return sets, like how do you feel about an epilogue set in general?
I feel about epilogue sets generally the same way I do other sets. Wizards really needs to get their head out of their ass and figure out how to design good sets. Yep. I'm fine with this existing. I think it's, again, it's neat, but also if it's only 50 cards, just plug it into the previous sets and it's totally fine. No one's going to notice. I think the emphasis on booster fun is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. That's so stupid. There's nothing fun about lighting money on fire when you're opening a pack. It's not fun. And I think, to me, the biggest gripe I have, it's fine, but I don't like the way the booster packs are assembled. Being a 50-card set makes it incredibly hard. Like, this feels almost borderline LCG. And part of it is, like, if you open a set booster box, you get, like, 2 to 3 copies of the set, basically, because of how small the set is and everything. But like, I don't know, or maybe it was a collector booster. We ended up with 3 of the set, but either way, it doesn't feel good to do that because, from the vendor perspective, these cards are probably going to be dog water. But who knows? Like I said, there's a few uncommons that I think will actually surprisingly hold the majority of the value because of how the packs are assembled.
Yeah.
It's just, I question why.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna take the ball exactly from that question, which is the only reason I see these sets making sense is because WotC realized they might have hamstrung themselves when it comes to the story of the game and trying to tell as much as they can in a singular set without any kind of additional supplements to go along with it, like a second or a third set in the block to finish
It's
the
almost
story.
like block structure was great, and they should have kept it.
But designing mechanics to play well together in draft is just too difficult. And you know what? Look, at the end of the day, I do get that. You don't want the same mechanics floating through 2 or 3 sets. It does make things a little boring. And it seems like epilogues are really just meant to get the job done. So, all in all, if that's how they want to extend the story out and make this another piece of media to go along with the main set and like the lore that's on online at this point, I'm okay with that. I think
that's fair.
The idea of it being LCG, didn't strike me as something that could be possible with this, and that makes actually a decent amount of sense. Like, do you need every product to be a gamble? No, you probably don't. And when you make a set that's 50 cards, yeah, you could probably just make an LCG product out of it, and if people want to buy more than one copy, then they can just buy 4
copies of the set.
Yeah.
Great. And you know what? It's fine. If you want the set to be $60, cool. Buy 4 copies. Yeah. There's your 4 copies. Fine.
Mm-hmm. Or you can make it some product that guarantees, like mathematically, you'll wind up with the entire set, but make it a little bit of a gamble and throw and do what you want with your variants at that point. And like there are a lot of ways to get it done, and we will probably see this change in the future. But for me, the only way that these things truly make sense is that they realize they can't get all the story in one set anymore.
Yeah.
And people just didn't care about the story point cards that were in the main set. They were just, generally speaking, otherworldly bad. Just stone unplayable for the most part. So you got to tell the story in some other way. And like, this makes sense. Cool. This is how we can extend the multiverse. Maybe we'll bring in new characters. Yeah, exactly right. What have you. And to me, that's what makes sense. And that's the way it would make sense to continue this product in the future. Like, we're going back to Ixalan, and we know that Ixalan, maybe it's Eldraine. We know that Eldraine was not designed with the 3-year standard rotation in mind.
Correct.
But we don't know what sets were and weren't designed with these epilogue sets in mind. So maybe we will get them, and these could be the last times we actually see Ixalan and Eldraine, thankfully or hopefully.
Yeah.
And maybe we will only get one return set now, or no return sets with an epilogue. Who knows? But
one thing I did want to shout out about the multiverse and how it ties into this set, the art for base Spark Rupture it's like identical to a title card from one of the DC animated movies. Where it's like Hawk Girl is in the bottom right and Hawkman is in the back. So like Ob Nixilis, and I think it's Kiora. Mm-hmm. Or it just reminds me of a 90s or early 2000s animated DC movie. I swear I've seen it in one, which I thought was neat, if that's not, the Mandela effect. I don't care what anybody says. Berenstain Bears was spelled the other way. And Sinbad was in a movie about a genie.
That's what I was trying to think. I was like, was it Shazam? Because I couldn't remember the other
that movie exists.
Okay, so I'm going to field the next question first, because I've been stewing on this one for a couple of days now. So we see our first epilogue set. We see what it's about. And immediately, what do you think about improvements to the sets? And this is just from the 50 card standpoint. Like, okay, this set seems like it's primarily designed to not serve constructed. There are definitely some aggressively costed cards, so that's going to get some constructed players interested in the set and engaging with it in a meaningful way, but not the way WotC wants. They're not going to go out there and they're not going to buy packs for this stuff. They're going to go out and interact with the secondary market. So what do you do? And maybe now is the time to actually separate out the commander from the constructed and the constructed from the commander. Like, I remember it so vividly. The first pack of Innistrad I cracked, I was like, God damn it, there are commander cards in here already. And that was the fall set after the first official release, or like a year later. And so it's been that way for almost a decade. And if we're going to do these epilogue sets, if you want to guarantee interest, guarantee sales, you can make them aggressively built for Commander. You could put your Commander staples in there, and you will still get people reaching into both Constructed and Commander sets, because the people who are going to buy packs are going to buy packs. Your Commander players now have their own dedicated product, and your Constructed players can dip in if they need to, and vice versa when it comes to a main set. And it also means that you can design them specifically for Commander, and you can tone down what's going on in your Constructed sets in such a way that maybe you don't have these Commander cards coming out of Commander sets breaking formats. Or the inverse. Cards from Standard moving into, or Constructed sets moving into Commander and breaking Commander because things are built differently. They're built for different applications now. It's no longer, well, the Commander rare has to be viable in Draft, so fix it.
Yeah. Or
this is a Commander product and we need to get Constructed players interested in it, so let's put something stupid in it. Here's True Name Nemesis. Here's Toxic Deluge. Here's Baleful Strix. Here's Charlotte's Agent in a Plane Chase deck.
Yep.
Here's Skoos.
Get them.
Yeah. Here's I guess Tracks of the Grand Unifier isn't a good example. It's the new one.
Yeah.
The new one. Yeah. The new one for Constructed is Wreaking Hell. But for me, that would be how I would improve these sets. Was I would be looking to pull as much Commander product out of Constructed as I could to slam in these sets to guarantee those sales and guarantee interest. Because if it doesn't hit the Commander market and it's not good enough for Constructed, who is it for?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's two ways I'd improve it. And one is, like you said, make it a little bit more Commander friendly and solidify the mainline sets to be more Constructed oriented. And this gives you, because largely these cards do look like EDH cards, outside of maybe Vesuvian Drifter, maybe Spark Rupture or Deification, but those are a long shot. But I think that's generally how these sets should exist. The other way I would improve them is just by not fucking doing them. Because stop printing so much product. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right, because you need some type of, and it is okay. Like I said, there's a couple cards in here that may be Constructed viable to have a little bit of carryover, because, prime example, True Name Nemesis. That deck was worth a fortune because of Constructed, and Constructed players wanted it. Great. That gives you a little bit of crossover for a product. To me, one of the worst things that's going on is the dilution of every product into being half Commander, half Constructed. Yeah. And it feels like the left doesn't know what the right is doing, and these kind of give you a way to alleviate that if you insist on continuing to do them.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we know from the Lord of the Rings product list that we're getting starter decks back and some other odds and ends products, but it's also like these could just fill a hole that players might have enjoyed previously.
Yeah.
To the point where you don't always need to keep printing new product, but if there's going to be a main Commander product with every set now, because that's just how it is. And then there's also going to be some interesting supplemental Commander product that goes with it. It makes your Commander players also feel like they're being targeted with each set too, in such a way that isn't pejorative.
Great.
Yeah, well, no, it's okay, we're going to get a new deck, and that's how we're targeted. That's how WotC interacts with us. They just give us a new deck. Anything else comes from the Constructed stuff, we don't have to care about that. We just hit TCG player. Well, now we have Commander packs that comes with every set? Cool. I'll buy some of those. Now they get their own product, or a product that's mainly pointed to Commander.
Yeah.
And I think that is a little interesting. So
that's fair.
I do understand the frustration of it doesn't just have to be a fire hose of product all the time. But at the same time, lean into the Commander players a little bit. You had Conspiracy. Both of those sets did moderately okay.
That is true.
And they were primarily targeted to Commander players.
Yeah, they were entirely, look, let's make this a limited product designed for multiplayer. Great. That's your EDH set.
Yeah. And they did it in a meaningful way. There were very highly impactful cards in the Conspiracy sets that dropped the price of cards due to rarity and didn't break Commander by re-upping the population. Berserk did not upend Commander because more people had access to it. Same with Show and Tell, Or not. Is Decimate? Was that in there?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's Show and Tell to me was clearly designed to bring the price down.
Yeah.
For presumably at the time Constructed, because Legacy was still being played.
Yes, yeah.
So you can insert stuff like that in there. because the Commander players aren't going to care about that as much, so they'll sell it or trade it or whatever. Just
Exactly.
be better, guys. Be better. Maybe look at what it requires for stores to be premium and do that shit yourself.
That's fair. That's fair.
Just be better.
Yeah. If you could just hand carve your own tables and chairs, we would really appreciate that, because this one store did it.
Please, guys, come on. Everyone needs to now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. So we haven't really talked about variants a lot, and that's going to be the last little piece of this set. This is going to be the last little tidbit. So you glommed on very quickly to the fact that when you look at the booster pack breakdown, and I'll bring it up in a moment here, like Starcy did a great job of breaking it out, that uncommons can be rarer than rares.
Yep.
And this is because of how the number of variants and how the variant slots work in these packs.
Yep.
You want to give us a quick rundown?
Yeah, so basically you've got your Epilogue boosters and your Epilogue collector boosters. So the Epilogue boosters, it's only 5 cards, and one of them is an ad card or a token. So it's a 4-card booster. Let's make that clear. Don't let Wizards of the Coast lie to you. They have 2 non-foil uncommons, 1 non-foil rare or mythic rare. So there's 3 of them already. 1 traditional foil card of any rarity, and 1 in 6, it's a rare or mythic. Sure. 1 booster fun card. 1 in 6 is a traditional foil. 1 in 6 is a mythic or rare. 1 in 36 is a foil rare or mythic rare. So when you open a box of the regular boosters, you're obviously going to get a ton of uncommons. Cool. That's where the constructed, whatever stuff could be. But the collector booster is where it gets really bad for the uncommons, because as we've seen anecdotally from all of the sets that have come out recently, people just want collector boosters. They don't care about set, they don't care about draft, whatever. They want the collector boosters. So we have 6 cards. One of them is a foil double-sided token, whatever. That one doesn't count towards the 5 cards, though. Or 6. You get 1 traditional or halo foil uncommon and 1 foil etched uncommon. That's it. Everything else is a rare or mythic. You get 1 traditional foil rare or mythic rare. Cool. 1 non-foil or traditional foil extended art rare or mythic. 1 and 3 contain a foil. You also get 1 traditional or halo foil booster fun rare or mythic, with 1 and 6 containing a foil. And then you get 1 foil etched rare or mythic rare. So already, if you want any shot at a foil rare, you're going
To
collector.
Collectors, yeah.
That's just how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Why would I go into a store and pay the $2 or whatever to get a 5-card pack that has realistically 4 uncommons and 1 rare in it? We tried this before with those $2 packs at Target, and it didn't work. When you could maybe get a rare or 3 uncommons or whatever it was. Nobody liked them. We've done it before. Nobody cares. Collector boosters are what everyone's opening. That's where it's going to be, and because of how many variants are in there, I think this is the set where it may come to a head that your base versions may overtake the non-base versions as the most valuable ones. It's nightmarish to see.
Yeah.
Although, as you call them, the Power Ranger Power Coin variants are fucking sick.
They're so cool. I don't have any sitting on my desk right now because I put them all away. But
they're awesome.
Yeah, I got my Italis in, and I was so happy to see them. So happy. Somebody actually made a 3D Itali. I don't know if anybody who watches this has seen these before, where basically somebody just spends a lot of time, and if you look at what Scrimshaw is, it's basically the same.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing, but you just stack a ton of the same card on top of one another, and you build this 3D layout for the card. You remove the back, so you push it back and give the card depth. And I was like, oh my god, I would want to get that done, seal it, and then put it in a morpher.
Yeah.
Like, there's a long-winded way, exactly, of just getting there. Like, I would straight up buy one of the Power Ranger Lightning morphers just to put the Itali coin in.
That's sick, yeah.
Because somebody took the time to do that, just to spend the time and do that cool altar, and like, Yeah, now we're
Pretty
getting
sick.
more of them on non-dinosaurs. I noticed that. They're like a couple
Yeah.
blue cards, and it's slightly disappointing.
Obviously, the dinosaurs, guys. It's a power coin.
It
Get out of
is,
here.
yeah. But so basically, what we're looking at now is that filter out. Oh hell no, that's the power coin. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at in the collector boosters at the end of the day is a 2-to-1 ratio of rares and mythics to uncommons. That's the breakdown of what we're seeing. And so the TLDR is that because, like you said, people are now targeting CBs as the packs they want to open for a myriad of reasons over, traditional boosters. You're going to see this uptick in the population of rares compared to uncommons.
Yep. And I think it's because this is not a constructed, engineered set, the way that previous sets had supposedly been.
Yep.
Is why this will come to a head where you will see those uncommons start to go up in price.
And
not to mention, a lot of vendors just didn't order a lot of this.
Yeah.
Like, nobody wants it.
No. And actually, the only way to get a non-foil uncommon is in the regular set. So you're guaranteed 2 of them there. So there's a really good chance that you might see, like you said, regular set versions overtake foils of any and all types for some of these cards.
And of note, there are only 16 uncommons in the set compared to 34 rares. So that may impact things because of guaranteeing 2 of them.
Yep.
Well, I mean, maybe, but I just don't see a lot of those packs being opened. At the price point that each of the respective packs is at,
yeah,
I don't know anyone that's like, I won't pay the extra money and get the collector booster. Like, what?
Why? What? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to be a weird set. I don't know who it was. Somebody very early on, and I don't want to misattribute it, so I just won't say who I think it is, said that this could be the next Commander Legends Baldur's Gate, where people are just so down on the product that everything's super cheap, and then you wake up one day like 6 months to a year later and you're like, why is it all so expensive? And it's because it just stopped being opened.
Yeah.
People were so
and
down
nobody
on
wants it.
Yeah. People are so down on it. It was moderately allocated, right?
Yeah.
And like, if there's no interest, there's no additional print waves, and that means what you get is what you get. So then everything goes up.
Yep.
And it kind of pooped. So it is what it is in that regard. But I do kind of believe that might be the case for like the handful of cards that people are interested in from the set. So
yeah,
we'll see. All right, ready for picks?
Let's do it. You start this week.
I am. So I purposely didn't tell you my pick because I'm picking a card from the set.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, right. So it's not Spark Rupture, which I did buy a lot of because I do believe that card has legs, but I don't want to push it on people as a spec. I just think it's gonna like, for the price that it's
good.
at, yeah, it's like 29 cents. Like if you, I think it's a very good card. At worst, it cycles for 3. I think it's just gonna do more than people give it credit for. So that's not my spec. That's just a piece of advice. Yep. My spec, however, is Narset Enlightened Exile. So this is a card that I thought was pretty decent, but I wasn't really sure how decent. And
it's so good.
It costs 1, a blue, a red, and a white. So 4 mana value for a 3/4 legendary creature, human monk, with a passive ability that says creatures you control have prowess. Then, whenever Narset Enlightened Exile attacks, exile target non-creature, non-land card with mana value less than Narset's power from a graveyard and copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So non-creature, non-land, that could be any other permanent that isn't those types or a spell.
Yep.
And then you can cast it. So you get a little like Snapcaster action on top of your prowess action. And I thought it was decent, and I heard murmurs of it doing something in Historic or Alchemy, one of those goofy arena-only formats. And so I basically kept my ear to the ground just to see what was going on. And on March 15th, when I first added this to my list, Card King was buying 111 at $5.
May 15th?
Yeah, the 15th.
Oh, you said March. I just want to clarify.
Oh, sorry, May 15th. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
When I added this to my list, and it's like, all right, this is time to start watching. TK was buying 111 at $5.50, and there were 111 on TCG at $4.18. When I was taking my notes, CK was still buying 111 at $5.50 because it was basically like the next day. Now they're buying, and they were still buying at $5.50. Now CK is buying 125 at $6. And when I was taking my notes, TCG had 116 at 533, so there are more copies hitting the market. Price went up, and by the way, there was immediate arbitrage opportunity from TCG to CK, like 0 day on this card.
Yeah.
Now it is a market of $5.70 on TCG Player, and there are 95 listings left. So this thing is moving. So when we think about this from a commander perspective, what does this card do? Well, it is the new Prowess Commander, hands down. Yeah. It takes over that slot. Oh, the only issue is it doesn't seem to really be in player hands yet, so it's not picking up on rec. It is not taken the number 1 slot. Now, I do imagine this is a smooth transition from the current Prowess Commanders over to this, while also pushing a renewed interest in the lagging theme that is Prowess on rec.
Yeah.
And one of the neat elements of Narset is that Prowess is a keyword that stacks, meaning that cards like Monastery Mentor will double trigger Prowess thanks to the Narset passive.
Yep.
This can also push Harmonic Prodigy, as a number of creatures with Prowess happen to be wizards. So we're looking at possibly triggering cards upwards of 3 times now. And for those that don't know, Harmonic Prodigy is a card that I also
MH2.
About.
Yeah. That card is really good.
Oh, it's Storm King. There it is. Right, so here we go. It costs 1 and a red for a 1/3. It's a human wizard. It has Prowess. If an ability of a shaman or another wizard you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. That's all it does. That's it. End of story. Costs like $1, maybe $2.
Yeah.
But with that card in tow, now we're triggering Prowess effectively 3 times. Now, as a theme, overall, Prowess does seem a bit unfocused as well, so my hope is that Narset helps reduce a lot of the noise and homogenize a lot of the lists, and that helps push the theme a bit, because if players can't go to rec and say, what does an average deck look like? Oh, that's very clear what it's trying to do. Everything says Prowess, and the spells all, like, they give additional power to put onto Narset, and we're redrawing a lot, etc., and they just don't see that, then they're not going to move into that. So homogenizing this is super duper important. Now, I did mention that I heard this was being played on Arena. So we are actually seeing a bit of a content creator bump on this cards. And when you check on decks, you're actually seeing people like Amazonian play this card in Standard. You're seeing it in Historic Brawl, whatever the hell that still is, and Explorer, which is not Alchemy. And neither of those formats actually matter, so whatever. It's just seeing play. Now, I would also expect this to continue to pick up a bit more as the Standard deck that it's being played in is actually a Delver deck, because apparently that card was in Midnight Hunt, and Delver is still a deck, quote, idea, unquote, that people love. Just, is it X tempo?
Yeah.
Cool. If Rakdos gets pushed down and Delver gets better, well then here we are. This is a card that serves that theme super well, because it plays like the mono blue tempo deck from the year that I can't remember her name right now, won the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
Autumn Burchett.
Yeah, Autumn. Yep.
Playing the mono blue tempo deck with the equivalent of Shore Up and a bunch of like little blue things that just got there. So when everything has Prowess and you're able to defend them with a majority of your spells, your creatures get bigger, you attack for more, you close out the game faster. Very interesting way of doing it, and a very opportunistic deck for Standard, especially in like the new vision that they have for it, which isn't just mono mid-range. This is a tempo deck. It can win from nowhere. It can win with a big push. It has Stoke the Flames in the format again. Like, this deck can do some really interesting things overall, so we might get that constructed bump and the content creator bump that would come with it if it does hit Standard. Though immediately, I do think that this card is going to breathe life into that underserved theme, but when we get the content creator push for Commander, that's when I do think we will see it take off even more.
Yeah.
Because this brings another new Prowess general. And for those that are curious, the only other general that really matters for the Prowess theme is Elsha of the Infinite, and that was just reprinted in 2x2.
Yep.
And this is 2, a blue, a red, and a white for a 3/3 legendary creature, Jin Monk. All right, cool. So it doesn't actually work with our other little nerd.
Yeah.
It has Prowess, and it says you may look the top card of your library at any time. You may cast non-creature spells from the top of your library. if you cast a spell this way, you may cast it as though it had flash. So it basically just allows you to play the top of your deck at instant speed for non-creature spells, which is cool. And it just allows you to tear through. Now, these two can be played side by side, but Narset just does a little bit more in giving all your creatures prowess. When your Monastery Mentor monks have double prowess, when your Young Pyromancer tokens have prowess, when that 4 mana value Bird Maker thing from Guilds of New Rav has prowess, and all of its birds have prowess. You can do things, gross things with this. So I love it overall. Timeline, this has been selling between 60 and 100 copies a day. When I took my notes, I said for the last 5 days on TCG Player. This has been the standard now for the past almost week. And there is still an arbitrage opportunity to CK. You can still buy off TCG Player for less than $6 and move it to CK for cash profit. Now, if sales velocity holds, this card jumps by almost 50% within the next, I said 110 copies sold. So that was going from about 5 to 6, and we're going to see it hit $7 probably in, I'd say, about 60. Did I just see an anchor? Somebody's got 10 at 640. Like, that's where we're waiting.
Sure.
That'll be a block for a minute, and then it's just going to run up to like 7 and then 8. So we're looking at an immediate inflection back into the marketplace for our timeline. Like, that's it. Immediate. You just buy them and in hand put them back in. If you can drop ship back into the TCG Player warehouse to list,
great.
Run it. Just add $1.50 and you're golden. Now, reprint equity. This touches on the Epilogue stuff. I've got no inkling of what's going to happen with Epilogue sets and the reprints that come with them. If we see another prowess-based Commander product, then I would expect this to get the nod over Elsha of the Infinite as the general there, but I really don't know what we're going to be doing, especially with cards that are desparked Planeswalkers now. And Narset, like some of the others, Karn, Ob Nixilis didn't have a spark, had a spark, and then lost it. So, like, what's going on with these characters now?
Poor Ob Nixilis. He's had it and lost it twice now.
It's true. At least, I mean, I was going to mention Slowbad, but Slowbad willingly gave it up.
True.
To Karn. So, reprint equity, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get another prowess deck. It's just not a great strategy. It is a decent strategy. Like, Feather and Kaikar are good decks. They're basically prowess decks. But it's so hard for WotC to put one together because it's like you either just heavy punch people out of the game real quick or you sit there and do nothing but 4 damage every now and again. It's like that's a difficult balance, so we might just not get another deck because it's difficult to build for them.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd believe that, so we might just get a push on it, from a reprint perspective. Cool. By quantity, I picked up 5 myself over the weekend. I have 4 for Constructed and 1 for Commander, but I would definitely dip back into the well for another 8 or so. I don't think I'm going to be serving my locals. I don't think a lot of people are going to be interested in a prowess deck, but if you have a larger community or you just want to sit on them and move them to CK, you can go deeper than 8. You just got to be willing to slap like 50 to 80 on the table instead. So I don't think the sky's the limit here. I think there's a hard cap, but I don't think you can really go wrong with a card that's moving so fast that you can just ask TCG Player to relist it for you after you buy it.
Yeah. I think this is really solid. Like you said, it's an underserved theme, and it synergizes, like, not directly, but it's a sidestep of so many other themes in those colors, like Wizards with Harmonious Prodigy, for example. We know that Wizard Tribal is a thing. Azami exists. There's a bunch of cards that synergize with Wizards. Narset just incidentally synergizes with all of those cards with Harmonious Prodigy out. It's in a popular color combination, and I don't know. I mean, I didn't realize how many people were alive in the storyline until the last 2 sets, and I was like, good lord, where did all these people come from? So I don't know that there's a reprint equity for it that matters, because there's so many, like, we've got to go back to Tarkir. We only saw Narset because all of the multiverse is there, and I don't see, unless we get it in like a Commander deck maybe, but then they'd have to be at a prowess plane, which means going back to Tarkir, which again, that story's wrapped up. We're done. I just don't see that happening. So I think it's a pretty low reprint equity. I would probably myself get about 10 of these. I think it's really solid.
Yeah. If you believe in this as a constructed card as well, then that may be when there's no limit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think it's clearly really good at closing games. I'm just curious because, Modern being as fast as it is, if it'll, what needs to change for it to grab a foothold there. But I could certainly see it in Legacy for sure.
That's fair.
I am picking a card not from this set, but that I think the release of this set and what it signals is good for.
Okay.
And that is Minor Misstep from All Will Be One. Now, the reason I think that having this epilogue set is good for it is because we're going to quickly move on from All Will Be One to the next set, which is coming out. That means we're going to have less of this card open. So why Minor Misstep? Everyone and their mother is talking about this card in Modern Season. It's only shown up in a few decks so far. I don't think it has to show up in more than one or two decks at a big event to really explode. The low on this card is sub 20 cents.
Yeah.
I think similar to what we were highlighting earlier, where the pressure is put on these uncommon cards because of how many variants exist, etc. There's only one version of this card. It comes in foil and non. It doesn't come in collector boosters, really. I mean, I guess it could. There's one or two uncommon slots that can be non-foil. Anyways, this card is really, really good. Just read it. Counter target spell with mana value 1 or less. It's just like Mental Misstep, except it's not free. While Mental Misstep being free made it banned in every 60 card format. So this is a low barrier of entry, and that's kind of where it gets tricky. So for me, I see this as a buy list only. That's our out. Our out is that this hits 50 cents to $1 on buy lists, which is very possible. Mm-hmm. Misstep, for example, is 5 or 6 right now on the low end.
And that's played in the only two formats it can be played in. It can only be played as a one of. So
it's a clearly EDH and vintage card, which is presumably where Minor Misstep is going to end up. In addition to hitting, it lets you protect your Ragavan against a Prismatic Ending if they cast it for 1. It counters Ragavan. It counters Prismatic Ending. It does a lot of things.
It counters the entire burn deck if that ever comes back.
Yeah, and depending on your meta, that just may always be there. So it's a really good card that I think has a lot of upside. Now, Timeline is where it gets tricky, because as we get into RCQ season and we see more and more Modern events happen, depending when this card hits, that's our time to out. Our time to get in is now. Quantity, there was a vendor that had 80 of them at 14 cents, so I ordered all 80. Because I don't, this is a small price to pay. It was $20?
Something like
cool.
that, yeah.
I'm just going to park it in a box, and I'll check periodically and know where it's at in the box. But I think this card hits, if not during Modern Season, then long term, it's just a great card for EDH. Mental Misstep sat forever.
Yeah.
Forever. Until EDH caused it to spike in price. This is a card that I don't think will ever be worth less than 20 cents. I mean, it's a common. The floor on those is usually 25. But this does have the potential to be a turnaround pick where you can now, okay, I missed my window during Modern Season. Let's put it in the sit and forget about it box.
Yeah.
Because maybe there's a time in about a year or two probably where you may see a bump in EDH all of a sudden because people realize this card dried up. It's not in their LGS anymore. The run goes to online vendors. And you're not going to see a lot of them out there because this was a fairly well-opened set. Mm-hmm. But I believe in this card. I think it's just really good.
Yeah. I think, as you're talking about this, the two cards that parallels for me are Spell Pierce, which is printed infinitely now, so it's worth nothing.
Yeah.
And Spell Snare.
Yeah.
Which is
Spell Snare?
It's $1.
Yeah.
And that is Dissension, Modern Masters 2, and what did I just see? Battle Bond.
Yep.
So, obviously the quantity isn't there for Spell Snare yet, but it maintains value despite the fact that it does not really see play anywhere. Because at any moment in time, if Modern's average mana value shifts down towards 2 from 3, Spell Snare goes from being in the Modern box to being in the Modern sideboard now.
Yeah.
And if the mana if the the format continues to change, or a deck like with in terms of regards to mana value, or something like Death Shadow becomes more prevalent, a deck that isn't burn, that relies primarily on ones, pops up, then this becomes an amazing spell in the format.
Yeah. There's just a lot of like little things that can happen to make it insane.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I like it. And I don't think, I don't know that we'll ever get there with Spell Snare again, because Bob and Goyf and Snapcaster are somehow unplayably bad in the format.
No, but you look at the
But how many good one drops? There's a ton.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking, as you were talking about it, I was like, man, 1 mana interaction for Thoughtseize is great. Then I thought, like, I have Spell Pierce. Like, I have 1 mana interaction for Thoughtseize. But, like, it's not just Thoughtseize. It's the rest of the cards that you mentioned. Because Spell Snare limits the types of spells you can hit. When you look at Ragavan, you look at Aether Vial, you look at Thoughtseize, it is Minor Misstep that gets all of them. But as if the format shifts away from, like, I don't want to say the free spells and the elementals, but like less Omnath soup.
Yeah.
And down into something else.
Down into a traditional, like, aggro mid-range format.
Yeah. And that's when you would see Spell Snare come back a little more. When the Golgari Yawgmoth decks pick up a little bit, because they're very heavy at the 2 slot. You can see that come in a little bit. If the Murktide deck shifted a little bit and you saw more 1 mana value plays out of that deck, you could see Minor Misstep coming in as a main or sideboard option against that deck, because you can counter everything effectively that isn't Murktide, and you just need a counterspell to fight that war, or a Spell Snare to win it profitably when they're paying 2 for their counterspells. There's definitely a ton of play in this card, and buying in now to wait and see what happens at some point in time isn't a bad look overall.
No.
They keep iterating on this ability, so it's not like we can say with confidence that we're going to get a reprint of this over time.
Yeah.
Like 1 mana counter something for
conditional or otherwise.
Is something they just continue to iterate on. So I would expect this to not see a reprint rather soon, and be a worthwhile hold for the future. Who knows?
Yeah. I do also want to say that it is notable.
Yes.
That it does say 1 or less.
So you can get Bauble, yeah.
And any of the Cascade decks.
Okay, yeah.
So like Crashing Footfalls, any of that stuff, Living End, it counters those as well, which is huge in the format.
Yep.
Because those are decks that over like pretty much since Footfalls and since Living End has been in the format, like those decks just pop up periodically and do insane.
Mm-hmm.
Minor Misstep counters them.
Yeah.
So you have 8 counters effectively between Force and, or I guess 12 if you have Endurance, and it's just good.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of play to this card that people might not see, or they might just skip over because, it's a standard card. How good could it possibly? It's a standard counterspell. How good could it possibly be? Yeah. When they keep printing Spell Pierce and Disdainful Stroke in standard, and those are not really good enough to pick up. Well, sure, it's not Mystical Dispute levels of good, or Veiled Summer levels of good, but it is a very good card, and it has great application, and it's definitely worth picking up. I picked, like, they spoiled the card, I waited for it to actually drop to a reasonable price, and then I honestly moved in on my copies.
Yeah.
I think I bought like 8 or 12, because who knows, this could be the next wild slash of standard where all of a sudden a 1 mana value spell goes from being just like, oh cool, to $4.
Yeah. Oh, this is in every deck now.
Yeah.
That's solid.
Yeah, exactly. So I like the pick now and forever, also because I play the formats where it's relevant. So of course I'm going to want them and bring them with me, like bring extras with me in my binder, because it could be hard to find if people aren't cracking the right packs. So bring it back round to booster allocation. But anything else? So again, I like the spec. I love it. This is something I'd hold on to I'd buy a bunch and hold on to forever, because it'll go. But anything else before we pop off for the week?
Nope.
All right. So we are at MtG Cabalcast on Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, and YouTube. If you want to get in touch with me on Twitter, I am at Halt. I am Reptar. You are
at Thirsty Sizzler.
And we'll see you next week.